Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. Today I am finally getting around to trying part of, I should say, the Dream collection from Natasha Denona. I have her new little mini version, the little blush palette, as well as the larger palette. Now, I know the larger palette has been out probably like 2 years now, so I'm only going to be doing maybe a few looks with this palette just so I can test it out. I really want to use that duochrome in this palette, but the focus is mainly going to be on these two since these just released, I believe, last month. I did have these for a while and I kept pushing this video further and further back because I had other video topics come up before it, but I'm finally sitting down and trying these. I'm really excited for that. I do have swatches of all of these palettes, as well as comparing this little mini palette to the I Need a Nude palette, because I feel like it looks much more like this than it does the larger Dream palette. So I will be comparing all that. I will have timestamps listed for you below. And I'm struggling again with allergies. I am having it really rough. And I didn't get much sleep last night, so I'm hoping that this video is decent. I really am trying to make this video as good as possible. So please bear with me as I am dealing with my horrible allergies. So if all of that sounds interesting, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we have the little My Mini Dream blush palette and then the My Mini Dream palette. Looks like this. So we're just going to do some swatches of this palette. Okay, there is that palette swatched all out. I'm not sure exactly why I did the swatches so far apart. I guess it's just because I am running on just so little sleep. So let me go ahead and now we'll swatch the My Mini Dream Glow Blush. I'm going to see if I can get like the 3 swatches. I'm not going to try to swirl it. I'm going to try to get each individual swatch, like kind of just do like this. We'll see what happens. And there you have the eyeshadow palette and the blush palette swatched all out, and I'm going to include a clip right here showing this palette in natural lighting as well. Okay, so of course I wanted to compare this little My Mini Dream palette to the I Need a Nude eyeshadow palette, because I do see some similarities, and I went ahead and swatched out 5 shades from the I Need a Nude palette that I feel like matched closest with the shades in this palette. So if you have this larger palette and you weren't interested in this mini option, I think you could get looks that are really quite similar. Okay, so here is the Mini Dream palette, and here are the shades that I found in the I Need a Nude palette that look very similar. We have the shade Ella, Mesh, Whisper, Silhouette, and Tender. So I feel like you can get a really similar look. It won't be exact, it won't be spot on, but it is very close, just in case maybe you didn't want the little mini palette. Maybe you felt like the larger palette was good enough. But I know a lot of people love the mini palettes simply because they're perfect for travel, or they're perfect for a more, curated little palette that you can just take on the go. So I know that there are pros and cons to having mini palettes, but I did want to compare these two since I have seen people say that they are similar to one another. And here it is next to the larger My Dream palette. I feel like it definitely does look like a mini of I Need a Nude versus this palette. But I went ahead and swatched out this larger palette. I didn't do live swatches of this one because I know this palette right here has been out for probably, 2 years at this point. So most people have already seen it, and I'm not going to just, So I'm going to go ahead and show this all swatched out and compare it to this little mini palette. And there you have the mini My Dream palette and then the larger one. Yeah, I don't see it. This is so warm. I don't really see that, but I mean, hey. That was her vision, so I'm not gonna, But I will say that I feel like I like this color story better than I do this. I think this is pretty. I think this is a stunning palette. Do not get me wrong, but I really love the I Need a Nude palette. It is my favorite Natasha Denona palette, so I love that this is like a little mini version of that palette. Okay, so if you watched the swatches, you will see that I pulled 5 shades from the I Need a Nude eyeshadow palette that I felt was the closest that matched these 5 shades in here. So what I want to do is use these 5 on one eye, probably this eye, probably using these 5 over here, and then I'm going to be using the 5 shades from the I Need a Nude palette on this eye. I just want to see them side by side just to see how similar, how close you can get. Like if you have one, you might not want the other, and I feel like this is definitely a good way to test that out. So we're going to start with this palette over here on this eye, and I'm going to start with this shade right here on a fluffy eye blender brush from e.l.f. And this shade, what I'm going to do is just take it really lightly all over the lid and all into my crease as well, just real soft. This would be the type of shade that if I'm just wanting a really quick out the door look, this is the shade I would use, and then just put a shimmer over the top of it and I would call it a day. Go back in one more time and build that up just a little bit. We're just taking that all over the lid, and we're taking that all up to like the brow and everything, because this shade is really going to work kind of like a nice transition shade. From the I Need a Nude palette, we're going to take the shade Mesh. I have to hold it kind of like that because if I hold it up, it reflects pretty badly. So I'm going to take this shade right here using the same brush. I've wiped this brush off with like a silicone little brush cleaner mat over here to the side, so there's no product left from the other shade that I was using. This shade seems to have just a touch more pigment than that other shade. So I'm going to go back in over here in just a second and see if I can build that up just a little bit more to kind of match this side. Okay, I feel like that's pretty close. This shade just might be a touch darker, but you probably wouldn't notice it too much unless you were really staring. And you probably could go in with an even lighter hand on this side. Okay, I'm going to take this shade in the My Mini Dream palette on a blending brush from e.l.f. And I'm going to pat that shade right here on this outer corner, just to kind of deepen that up a little bit. The closest I could get to that shade from the I Need a Nude palette was the shade Tender, so I'm going to take that on a blending brush from e.l.f. But I'm not going to take as much of this shade. I'll take just a smaller amount. Kind of work it into that crease a little bit too. This shade is a little bit more in a swatch, more cooler toned. Gosh, I hear myself in my head. I hope I'm not sounding that bad on camera, but I know I am. I don't know if it's going to look like it on camera, but in person, you can see that it's a little more warm over here than it is on this side, but not like much. Okay, I'm going to go in with this shade right here in the My Mini Dream palette. I'm just going to take that on my finger since I have these little bit of shorter nails. And I'm going to put that in the center right here. And then from the I Need a Nude palette, I'm going to take the shade Ella. Place that right here in the center of this eye. And then I'm going to take this shade right here in the mini I Need a Nude palette. Place that on this inner portion. And then from the I Need a Nude, I'm going to take the shade Whisper. Then I'm just going to take this deepest shade from the Mini Dream palette on a liner brush. And I'm just going to stamp that. Just like that, just a really small line. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the I Need a Nude palette, and I'm going to take the shade Silhouette and just stamp that along this lash line. Okay, and there you have the My Mini Dream palette and the I Need a Nude palette. So what do we think? I think it looks very, very similar. This just has a touch more warmth to it than this eye. But other than that, you could pretty much create about the same look if you have one versus the other. But now, I understand having both, especially if you're someone who travels, you might want the I Need a Nude for at home and then have this one for travel. But I just wanted to do that comparison because I did feel like they were really, really similar and I wanted to do one on each eye. So I'm just going to do my mascara, do the rest of my face steps, and then I'll come back and do the blush on camera so we can see how that looks. Okay, I will have everything else that I'm wearing on my face listed and linked for you down below, but we're going to be trying this My Mini blush, what's this? The My Mini Dream Glow blush. So I'm just going to take this little angled blush brush and I'm just going to, I guess, swirl it around in there. I think that'd be the best way to do it. Let's see what happens. Well, that's pretty. That's definitely a shade that I would go for because it looks really soft. I actually didn't know if I was going to pick up this blush or not since I had just recently did a huge blush declutter, but I'm definitely fine with having blushes like this that are much more soft in my collection. These are the types of shades that I would go for. This is a really pretty blush. It's really soft, which is what I like. Okay, so I really do like that blush. That's really lovely and soft. It's what I look for in a blush, so I'm definitely impressed with that, but I will keep wearing it. I'll also be wearing it tomorrow when I do some looks with the larger My Dream palette. We'll see how it goes, but for the eyes, I feel like, yes, definitely. These two looks are really, really close. They're definitely close. Like, if you looked hard enough, you probably could see a difference between them, like in the tone, like the undertone. But other than that, I feel like they look really, really similar. So that's really interesting to see. But I will be doing some looks with the larger My Dream palette, and then I will give my final thoughts after I try that palette. Okay, so it's day 2 and I want to do 2 different looks with the larger My Dream palette because I've never used this palette before. It is new to me. I know it's been out on the market for a while, but I just wanted to do a couple of looks just to see my thoughts on it and include it in this video since I am talking about the smaller little palette as well as the little mini blush palette. So I'm just going to do 2 different eye looks with this palette. I'm not going to do any more than that because I know most people have probably seen this palette by now. So I'm going to start with the shade Nurture on a fluffy eye blender brush from e.l.f. And I'm just going to start placing that kind of all over the lid and all up into my crease. I'm just kind of using this also, even though I used a little skin tone eyeshadow earlier to set my eyeshadow primer, I'm kind of using this shade in a similar way, just to kind of make sure everything is set. Okay, using that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Instinct. Start first kind of pressing that on this outer corner and kind of swooping it into the crease a little bit. I'm using this more larger fluffy brush because I want it to be more diffused if possible. Okay, next I'm going to take the shade Vision on my finger, and that's that shade that's duochrome. If you can see that shift when I do it like that. Really pretty. I knew I wanted to use this shade. I'm going to put that right here in the very center of my lid. Now, is it as revolutionary as indie brands? Well, of course not, but it is very pretty. Then I'm going to take the shade Thrill on a concealer brush from e.l.f. I'm going to place that. I didn't spray my brush. I'm going to place that right here. I just want to see how it did on its own. I was going to use my finger, but I wanted a really precise application because I didn't want to cover up any of that duochrome. Okay, I'm going to go in with the shade Unity on a fluffy eye blender brush from e.l.f. And this shade I'm going to place over here and put that in the crease and all over the lid. Get back into that shade. I don't think I picked up enough the first time. Using that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Carpe Diem. And then I'm going to press most of that pigment on this outer corner. And then get any excess off my brush and then just sweep the rest through my crease. And don't worry about any messiness out here. I will clean that up later with some concealer. I'm definitely messy when I do my eyeshadow. That's why I love to do my eyes first and my face last. Okay, then I'm going to take the shade Serenity on my finger. And I'm going to place that right here in this very center. Actually, I'm going to put it all over the lid. I'm going to put another shade over the top. I kind of want this to be like a base shade. So, now let me just put that everywhere. And then I'm going to take the shade Spontaneous. And I'm going to place that shade over the top. Okay, so I'm just going to do some mascara. I probably will do a lash today, I'm not sure yet, and then I'm going to do the rest of my face, and we'll come right back and do the lower lash line. Okay, I'm going to mix the shades Nurture and Familia on a small angled brush from e.l.f. And I'm going to run that all along the lower lash line on this side. And then using that same brush, I'm going to take the shade Risk and Unity and mix those two together. And then that is going to go on this lower lash line. Then I'm going to take a small amount of the shade Spontaneous. And I'm going to place that on the inner corner on both sides. And here are looks number 1 and 2 all done. And I did end up just using mascara, of course. I'm just using the e.l.f. Lash Extender Mascara. This one is in the brown shade. I just really love wearing just mascara lately. I feel like I haven't worn false eyelashes on a regular basis in a long time. But there you have the completed look. I am, of course, also wearing the My Mini Dream Blush as well. So I'm just going to quickly recap these products and just give my final thoughts on them. But now I do really, starting with the little My Mini Dream palette, I do really like this. More so because it looks exactly like the I Need a Nude, which is my favorite Natasha Denona palette. And if you saw the demo, you saw how I could create a very similar look from this palette that matched this one pretty close. I won't say it was 100%, but it was really, really close, where you probably would have to get really up close to somebody's face to be able to tell a difference. So from that standpoint, if you had this one and you're not looking for a little mini option, then, you know, I say you definitely wouldn't need it, because you can get the same look from this palette. But if you are someone who likes to have a more small, more curated eyeshadow palette, then I think this is a very nice option to have. The formula is amazing. I really do like this palette. I like these little shades that they give you together. It creates such a really pretty, simple, everyday look, which is definitely my favorite type of look. So can't complain at all about this little palette. Now for the My Mini Dream Glow Blush, I really do like this. I think it's so pretty on the skin, but I think this blush will really depend on your preference. I feel like it's very soft. You can build it up a touch, but it's more so going to be like a soft blush, and it's going to have like a little bit of glowiness to it, especially because, you know, odds are with your brush you're going to be mixing in with this unless you're using a really small brush to go in with these. So you do have to kind of like that as well. If you're more of like a minimalist, you like just very few products, I think this is a nice option to have, because you have your blushes and highlighter all in one in this little teeny little compact little case. So I do like that about it. I think it's just a really cute blush. I do like it because I love a soft blush. That's my preference. And I had originally held off on purchasing this because I just didn't know. I had recently did a large declutter for my blushes, and I got rid of a lot of the more deeper tone ones, so I didn't know about this one, but I'm glad I picked it up because it's everything that I personally look for in a blush. So I definitely would recommend it. More so, I'd say if you have a fair to light, maybe light medium, I don't know, because I feel like if you have a deeper complexion, I don't know if this would really work for you. I just feel like it's too soft. It probably wouldn't show up on you. So this is one of those things where it kind of just depends on your preference and what you're looking for, and it would also depend on your skin tone too. Formula wise, it's a really nice blush. It lasted all day on me yesterday when I wore it. It didn't fade, it didn't do anything weird, so I do like that about it. Now, the larger My Dream palette from Natasha Denona, of course, it is, from a formula standpoint, it's really nice quality. It's really easy to blend, easy to work with. These two looks turned out really pretty. However, I wouldn't pick this over my I Need a Nude. I think it's nice, but I like that other palette better for just what my preference is, but I feel like this palette has more points for depth. You can get a lot more deeper looks in this palette, which is better for those who have deeper complexions. The I Need a Nude palette leans more on the softer side. There's one deep shade in that palette, so this palette would get more points for that. But just so, I still love my I Need a Nude just for my personal preference. And while the duochrome is really pretty in this palette, if you have a lot of indie shadows and a lot of shifty shades already in your collection, you are not going to be impressed by that. I mean, because I feel like indie brands do duochromes and multichromes way better than these mainstream brands do, so just bear that in mind. But if you're someone who doesn't really use indie brands and you're only using mainstream, then I think it's a nice option to have. But this palette really doesn't rank higher for me than my I Need a Nude, but still nice quality. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. And please make sure to follow me over on Instagram at Jessica Dearly, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!